For the over-under on the wins, I think it's important. You got to look at the winnable games that Tampa Bay has. And I think, early in the year, they got to split. They got to go 2-2. I think playing the Bears at home. I know everyone likes to remember that game against Chicago when it was in Chicago, when Mr. Trubisky just absolutely torched the Bucs. But when Chicago comes to Tampa Bay, it usually works. It usually works out pretty damn good for the Bucs. So if they can get that one and go up against New Orleans too, you look later in the season, Houston, obviously with the rookie, anything can happen there. The Titans, I think, are going to be a little more disarray this year. Indy as well, going with Anthony Richardson. So there are certainly winnable games. And I think it's important for the Bucs to really take advantage of their divisional games. They got to at least split with the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. And if they can do that, any given Sunday, you end up upsetting another team like, Green Bay or Jacksonville later in the season. I would take the over for the Bucs wins this season. I really see them kind of doing what they did last year and going 8-9 and being in the running for that division. It's just kind of like what we talked about on previous shows. It's all about trending in the right direction in that last month of the season. I don't want them to come out of the gates hot and then kind of falter out when they get to, December. I'd rather them stumble out of the gate and then kind of pick it up in, start of November or anything like that. So
I think the thing is like Big DZ Ballin says 10-7 wins this division. I could see that. You know what? The strength of schedule, and I did the strength of schedule article earlier this week on Pewter Report. I'll throw that in the chat here in a second. But the Falcons have the easiest schedule, and all of the NFC South teams have easier schedules based on last year's results, of course, right? So you can't always say what's going to happen, right? Because some teams rise up. We saw that with Jacksonville and Detroit this year, and some teams certainly fall back, and that was Tampa Bay. Even though they won the division, they went from 13 wins to 8, Matt. That's 5 less wins. I think that there's going to be a double-digit record winner in this division this year. It's not going to be 8-9. Some team's going to rise up, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's Tampa Bay. I don't think it's going to be the Panthers this year, but one of these teams is going to rise up and probably 10-7 wins the division. And part of the reason why the NFC South teams have such an easier schedule is because they're playing the AFC South, which is a really, really bad division too, right? So you're going to have a lot of attrition, a lot of, Panthers beating the Falcons, Falcons beating the Saints, Bucs beating the Saints, et cetera, right? So you're going to have some of this intra division,
bad on bad,
right? But then you're going to have some opportunities, I think, outside of the division to maybe get a win against the Texans, right? Maybe get a win against the Colts. And I think if the NFC South can prove to be the better South, right? If they can get more wins against the AFC South than the AFC South can against the NFC South, then I think you're going to have at least one team get to double digits. I don't think it's going to be 13 or 14 or 15. I think it's going to be 10, maybe 11 if some team just catches fire and there's injuries within the division, things like that. But when it comes to the over-under question, I believe that the Buccaneers can win 8 games again. Matter of fact, if I had to guess right now, I would say 9. Is that going to be enough to win the division? I don't know.